January 5th on the LALive.com/holidayIce.
Fans, we want to welcome today's Wells Fargo honorary player of the game who had a chance to take the ice for the Kansas City Star again. As 13-year-old.
Nick talk.
All right, everybody, welcome to this edition of From the Arena. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. Of course, this is an Inside Sports production, and I'm very proud to be joined by Mr. Andrew Knoll, who has so many accolades that I know I'll leave something out. So, Andrew, first of all, thanks for joining us, and talk to the loyal fans out there, my brother.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, live from Staples Center, following the 4-1 victory by the Detroit Red Wings over the Kings. I cover the Kings and the Ducks for hockeysfuture.com, where you can get on all the info on the guys coming through the Kings pipeline and just joining the team here.
All right, and you talk about the Kings. I mean, the Kings pipeline, we talk about the Kings all the time. We're out here based in Southern California. The Kings have a problem with day games, and it really continued today. And as we showed during the open, that missed goal, the opportunity by Andre Kopitar, they get a penalty shot called. Kopitar, really, no one else. Who would you rather have take a shot? If you could choose someone off the bench for the Kings than Kopitar, he misses. But the Kings really just kind of didn't have their A game today.
Yeah, and Kopitar's first career penalty shot, so it's not like Howard had a great read on him. We talked to him after the game. He said he's never seen him in a shootout situation, obviously not a penalty shot situation. That was really an opportunity for them to steal a chance to get back in the game. And they had really been getting outplayed, losing the puck possession battle big. There they are, served up. You know, you have an opportunity to get an equalizer, and it goes by the wayside. It really went downhill from there. Sluggish in day games, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Kind of like a pitcher that has maybe a little bit of a difficult time getting back into that rhythm. You know, they like to be under the lights more, but the last time we can remember them having a big game, a day game, was last year against Colorado. It was about game 75.
Right.
And Kopitar breaks his leg. So everybody's bones are intact today. That's the good news, but kind of a sluggish 4-1 loss here.
Definitely was. And we talk about, I believe they were outshot 13-8 in the first period, 17-7 in the second period, and it really didn't get any better. And when we look at it, their only goal was a shorthanded goal by Mike Richards in the first period. That was his second in as many games. And then we have they have a 5-on-3 power play late in the game. Now it's 4-1. You got about 4 minutes to play. Still, they got a 5-on-3. If you can score in that first minute, it makes it interesting. Then you got another minute of power play, and who knows? It could have been a fantastic finish. But I've got to say, that's got to be one of the worst 5-on-3 power plays I have ever seen. It looked like a handicap game with a pro team playing one of the local colleges or something. Honestly, no disrespect to the Kings, but it was horrible.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Kings this year, I think they're 5th in the league in power play conversion percentage coming into this game. You think they turn it around from having really a woeful power play last year, where you got to the point where you thought maybe this would be like the NFL and they start declining these penalties to keep
just take a face off in the offensive zone,
right.
And then that's it.
Offensive zone start, and we'll keep playing at even strength. But
right.
It seemed like they turned a corner. But here today, I think it was just more so than any struggle on the power play, just emblematic of their larger lethargy. I mean, you had them coming in here, really not getting pucks deep. Detroit dominating the possession game, and when they were able to, maybe have a chance to get the puck out, get a change, that was not happening. So they had a lot of long shifts. They weren't moving their legs to begin with. By the time the third period rolled around, they looked defeated in that 5-on-3. Sure, you'd love to be able to pull some success there, maybe make the game interesting, or at least have something to build on going forward, but it absolutely wasn't happening.
Yeah, that's true. And then on the other side of the coin, though, Detroit has really had an incredibly up and down season. They're okay. They're no way out of the playoff race or anything like that. But it was one of those, win 4, lose 5, win 3, lose 2. They had just lost 2 in a row, and then they come into here and they were able to get their ship righted.
Yeah, they broke to a 5-0 start. Then they played Washington, who was also undefeated at the time. They got beaten pretty badly there, and it sent them into a tailspin. Then they have another nice losing streak, 4 in a row there. Then they come out, go 6-0.
Right.
now 0-2 on this trip to start it out. So I think this was huge for them, especially that was a mood in the Detroit locker room that they didn't want to get into another slump. I mean, the Surges are great, but as we've seen with the Kings last season, 2 slumps really took them from being competitive for the division crown
Right.
to fighting for their playoff lives. Detroit certainly doesn't want to be in that position. And getting a big win here, especially with a back-to-back, they go to Anaheim tomorrow, I think was very important for their team.
Definitely, and I'll tell you what, we talk about Detroit and, the attitude they have in trying to break out of everything. How better than to hear it directly from the horse's mouth? And if that horse has won 7 Norris trophies, you really want to listen. So my main man, Andrew Knoll, had a chance here to talk with none other than Nick Lidstrom about this. So it'll be just a moment. It's time for our post-game interviews. And coming up here, just a moment, will be Andrew Knoll with Nick Lidstrom. And then after that, he'll be talking with goaltender Jimmy Howard, who stopped that big penalty shot by Andrei Kopitar and wound up getting credited with this 4-1 victory. It'll be just a moment, and post-game interviews are coming up.
And so you guys get the puck possession game going and out to a 3-1 lead. How'd you jump on them that quickly?
Well, we wanted to hang on to the puck, especially offensively in their zone, and try to grind their D and get some shots on their goalie with traffic. And, we had the power play going early on for us that really got us going.
It's kind of been a season of streaks for you guys. You jump out to the 5-0 streak, win streak, then you have kind of a tailspin, another 4-game streak. How big is it to get this win and get this road trip kind of moving in the right direction?
It's very important, especially the way we started the last couple of games. We weren't happy with the way we were playing, and I thought we stuck with our game plan for 60 minutes tonight. I thought we played real solid defensively, try to clear the rebounds and be there for Howie in front of the net. But on the offensive side, I thought we did a great job of really hanging on to the puck.
And lastly, Datsuk tonight, 2 goals, doubles his total on the season, snaps a kind of a drought for him. Talk about his play this afternoon.
I thought he played real solid for us, both ends of the ice. He's a hard worker. He backchecks real hard, but when he has the puck, he can make plays and he can make things happen. It was great to see him get rewarded like that.
Thanks, Nick.
What was it? I guess a good bounce-back game for you guys today?
Yeah, it was. The last 2 periods in St. Louis, and then, I thought we played all right the other night in San Jose. It's just, I didn't play well, and I knew I had to give the guys a game.
Take us through the penalty shot, Kopitar.
Just stayed patient with him. He's a talented player. I figured he was going to make a move, and I just went out and followed him back and stayed patient and was able to make a glove save.
Have you ever seen him before in shootouts?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think we've ever gone to a shootout against LA. So, but watching. You get the tendencies of guys just by watching, highlights on TV and watching NHL on the fly, and those shows, when you see them, in those situations, you just sort of file them back in the back of your brain in your memory, and pocket when you need it.
Was this as good a two-way game as this team's played so far?
Yeah, it's this is our best game that we played in a while, and. We did a good job tonight. We kept the third man high. Really didn't give them much, and for us to be successful, we got to go out there and stick to our game plan, and that's getting pucks through the neutral zone, chipping them in, and just going to work.
With the way the season's gone, you've had surges and slumps. How big was it to get this win and kind of end the 2-game skid?
Very important. I mean, every single night you're going up against teams that want to win also, and some nights are better than others, and tonight was a good night for us.
Kind of the lone blemish tonight was Richard's breakaway there. Can you kind of take us through your read when he steals the puck and comes in on you?
It was a good individual effort. He's such a competitor. He competes very hard out there, and he was able to slip it through my legs.
I've already asked you, but can you take us through?
All right, everybody, and there was, of course, Nick Lidstrom and Jimmy Howard. And in case you hadn't guessed, we're going to have an interview with Terry Murray coming up next. But I like the way they put it on the line, and you could tell Nick Lidstrom, of course, he's been through it. He's got all the rings. He's got the Norris trophies and everything. But just talking about really settling down, coming out, getting a good, strong start, and then just carrying that through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other key thing tonight was the play of Datsuk and Zetterberg, two guys that have kind of struggled to start the season. Heading into this game, 34 games combined, they were barely at a half point a game, 18 points between the two of them. Mm-hmm. Tonight, 12 shots on goal between the two guys. Datsuk, who hadn't scored a goal in 12 games coming into this, doubles his total on the season with a pair of markers. So, their stars were shining tonight. Cronwall's picked up his game. Philpel and Franzen have been very good for him, even though they didn't hit the stat sheet tonight. So Detroit, you get the feeling like things are kind of coming together, and in that Central Division, things are so bunched up that it's still wide open here at the kind of the quarter point of the season.
Definitely. And then one thing about, when you talk about Datsuk, only had 2 goals coming in, but he gets the first goal, and then he gets the insurance marker in the third. So, in typical Pavel Datsuk fashion, he just gets it done. And he had an assist as well, I believe, tonight. Or did they change that on Abdelkader's goal, maybe?
I think they may have changed the scoring on that, but
I hope he's on a contract year, because they talk about those things when you go to renegotiate.
No, absolutely. I mean, he was in on the offense tonight. He was finding a ton of space. You saw him carry the puck through the middle of the ice and really playing the game we're accustomed to seeing from him. He's strong defensively, a guy who's a multiple-time Selke Award winner. Really kind of one of the underrated stars of the game, one of the most complete players around, and he definitely showed that tonight.
Definitely. How do you get the Selke and the Lady Bing in the same year? That's just incredible, because normally the Selke guys are just these dirty, muck, ugly guys who just get in there, they grind, they get the occasional butt end and rub it on your rib cage and stuff like that. That's a Selke guy, but yeah, Datsuk, you can't say enough about him.
Yeah, total finesse. And I mean, of course, if you're out there doing some matinee betting on the NHL, Gamblers Anonymous has a website, by the way. The trend was just not your friend tonight. Datsuk snapping the streak. You think Detroit, it's been a season of surges and slumps for them. They're in another slump. No, they come out and win, and they snap a 4-game streak for LA. What would have been a 4-game streak, and they've also won 4 in the last 5 for LA. So that's the usual matinee madness here in LA. You never know what to expect out of the Kings.
There you go. When we look at the Kings, let's go switch back to the home team here. And the Kings on this homestand, well, they had a home-and-home against Anaheim that's only 30 miles away, so we just call it a 6-game homestand here. They wind up 4-2. But, after those 2 tough games against Anaheim, then they come here today, kind of lay an egg here this Saturday afternoon matinee game. But, we talked to Coach Terry Murray also, of course, Andrew. He gets in there. He asks all the tough questions, y'all. I just stand back and, I do some camera work because I don't want to get hit with anything again. So, without further ado, I'll tell you what, we're going to go to some L.A. Kings post-game interviews. In just a moment, it'll be Terry Murray addressing the masses that have assembled and want to know what exactly went wrong with the Kings today. And stay where you are. It'll be just a moment, and Terry Murray is coming right up, folks.
Penalty shot.
Did it turn?
Yeah.
Well, it was a critical time, but I would answer today that that was a small part of it. They had a missed opportunity there to score. I think things turned after they make it 1-1. They score right away in the power play after we get a shorthanded goal that I thought was going to really be a huge momentum boost for us. And I don't know what happened on that. I haven't watched the replay on it. I just remember Brownie. It looked like he almost got tackled there. He was coming out to the point or to a loose puck. But they score right away, and they started to feed off of some of the turnovers, some of the decisions that we made to get the puck back to them, and they're covering you over top so well that as a veteran hockey club they come right after us with a lot of momentum. By the end of the second period, they had the game going the way they want it, and we end up chasing it.
What can you say about Mike Richards, the shorthanded goal, 2 straight now with a shorthanded goal? A bright spot for the team, but can you say something that hasn't already been said about him?
Well, he's he's one of the better penalty killers in the game. I think he's always got that anticipation. He's ready for those plays that he might be able to jump on and to put some pressure on the other team. And he does it again tonight. That to me was a huge play. Against a team like Detroit, it should be a great opportunity for you to feed off that kind of momentum. Let's kill the rest of this penalty. Let's get back to 5-on-5 and keep going. And they put a lot of water in the fire right away, and it just seemed like we never got our legs going after that. That was maybe the one thing that disappointed me as much as anything in the game, is that we were not skating anywhere near the way we've skated in the last 3 games, and they recognized it. They took advantage of us.
You've stole around a bit on the wing. Are you going to keep trying to do that to get them going?
Well, you're just trying to change things up, to get some offense going at that time. Move Lockdown to the middle, Stoll's up, Brad Richardson goes up. I'm looking for some speed to the puck, maybe on the forecheck, to just give Kopi and Gags an opportunity to recover some pucks. Williams goes to Lockdown, and I'm trying to find some balance in the scoring with that change. So. It's not something I'm going to stay with. Lockdale will go back to the left wing. I think he's played fine on the left side. But at that time, when it is 3-1, you're trying to find something that's good.
A couple of your players talked about they felt like they were chasing the puck all night.
Yeah, it's a good way of describing it. I thought that's exactly what was going on. We were chasing the game. They moved it very well, and they moved a lot of the time, though, off our turnovers. That was the thing that upset me in the course of the game as we got into the end of the second period and intermission. We're too far above it. Against a team like Detroit to play over top of you, you got to bring everybody back. You got to stay low. You got to make those little handoff support plays. And tonight it was one pass, and we thought we were done. We're resting. And when it should have been, okay, I got to stay involved, I got to get it back, and I maybe have to bring it out the other side. So I thought we brought a lot of the issues on ourselves.
When you're kind of pinned down in your own zone like that, does it magnify the importance of the breakouts and getting cleanly out of the zone, getting changes?
Yeah, well, the breakouts, again, we brought a lot of those problems on ourselves. We start going back behind our net 3 and 4 times. You start going D to D and turning back and bringing it back the second time, you're actually screwing everybody up. The forwards think it's going here, now they got to stop and come back to the other side, and it becomes a stop and start game from the middle of the ice to the boards, and that's too hard. Impossible to play that way. And so again, it's just highlights to me the fact that we brought all those issues on ourselves, and we got to get back to playing a better game. We need a day off. We've had 2 big games against Anaheim there, so we'll take tomorrow off, and we'll regroup back at practice on Monday and hit the road.
Now, Richard's 6 goals in his last 6, some pretty strong play out of Gagne and Kopitar. What's it going to take to get the secondary scoring going here?
Well, I'm encouraging the shots. We've been putting better numbers up at the end of the day. Shot attempts, shots on net. And you watch a team like Detroit, they're the number 1 team in the NHL, shots on goal average per game. They're at about 34.6 shots per game on average, and you can see why they're a good hockey club, and that's been their mentality throughout the last 15 years. And that's how you score goals. And we'll get together on Monday before practice. We'll talk about as much about Detroit as we will about our game, and try to highlight again the fact that you got to get into position, you got to put pucks to the net, and start hanging around the blue paint, and good things will happen for you.
There are 2 more power play goals.
Of course, head coach Terry Murray as we continue here. The show is from the arena, an Inside Sports production. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. This is Andrew Knoll, and that was Andrew Knoll putting the coach on the spot with those poignant and real and tough questions. And really, what I liked about Murray was he didn't get upset about anything. He looked at the game, he saw the game, he knew how they played. He knew that this just simply it wasn't their best effort for whatever reason out there today.
Yeah, in 40 years of professional hockey, I don't think there's anything I can throw at Murray to to lose his composure. Although I guess I've succeeded at that a couple times in my career here.
You have?
But yeah, overall, I think he gave a very honest evaluation of the game. It just showed that hockey's a two-way game. You know, there's a bit of alternating possession, but you really have to play a puck possession game. You have to manage the puck well. You have to make smart decisions. They didn't do that, and he was very frank about that, understandably so.
Definitely. Like you said, they get the a day off, then they're going to go back to practice, and then a short roadie. They got St. Louis and Dallas, and then they'll be back here next Saturday. Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, and the high-flying Chicago Blackhawks are going to be here at Staples, and they'll have a little short homestand. Then San Jose comes in, and then they play Montreal, and I believe they have one other game, which escapes me at the moment because I'm getting old, but what can I say? You'll get a chance after Turkey Day to come out here and see them on that Saturday. Hopefully, we won't be talking about them possibly having had tryptophan issues after that game against the Chicago Blackhawks next week.
Well, they had better not, because you're looking at several teams that are all playing hot right now, that are all above 500 in their last 10, and a couple of them that are very serious contenders in the West. Here we are at the 20-game mark, and you look at teams like Chicago and San Jose and how well they're playing. San Jose, a little bit of a sluggish start there. Joe Thornton didn't get off that great. They didn't have, a real defensive coalescence early on, but right now they're the hottest team in the Pacific Division. Thornton's playing a lot better. They're getting very even contribution, especially from those four natural centers, Pavelski, Couture, Thornton, and Marleau, that they've got in their top six forwards. Excellent goaltending, and it very, very much coming on in the Pacific Division that's grouped as tightly as it's ever been grouped, and that's really saying something coming off of last season.
Definitely, and you're looking at a division where out of the 5 teams, Dallas was the only team that didn't make it, and just about a week ago or so, Dallas had the best record in the National Hockey League. So that said, let's go ahead and segue away from this particular Detroit Red Wings and Los Angeles Kings game, and after 20 games, let's talk about the state of the game right now. Start in the Western Conference, because we're out west, and the East Coast shows an East Coast bias. We have a West Coast bias. We're going to start with the West. But we will be fair and equitable when we evaluate the East Coast teams. That's the difference between us and the East Coast, though.
Definitely, and we'll have the POC big discussions later, because we're old enough to do that. The kids today may not have a strong opinion on that. Yeah.
So we talked about the teams. Of course, you look at the talent on Chicago's roster, on San Jose's roster. We knew they would be good. We knew Detroit would be fine. It's just a matter of how their veterans are going to play. But let's talk about some of these other teams. What about Dallas? What about Edmonton playing well all of a sudden? Contenders, pretenders, somewhere in the middle. Is it just kind of a hot start and they're just going to be scraping and scratching the rest of the way? What do you think?
Well, with Dallas, I think they have some players that have kind of emerged quietly in the NHL. That haven't gotten a lot of national press or even Canadian press. When you look at Jamie Benn, people that saw him with the Rockets in junior knew what kind of explosive player he was, and he's transferred that over into the NHL. He's a guy who pounces on pucks shorthanded. He makes timely plays. He makes explosive plays, and he's been their best player so far this season. They've got another guy in Louis Eriksson who had a great start last year, playing on a line with Brad Richards. Richards is gone. He hasn't missed a beat. One of the finest two-way players in the Western Conference. They've got a very nice mix of forwards. Now with Goligoski coming in, they've got a pretty decent top 4D. Lettinen's been healthy. Dallas is a team that I think will at least kind of stay in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference for a while here.
And last season, remember, they did miss, I think it wound up being on the last day that they wound up getting eliminated from the playoff race. So they may have a shot there. What about Edmonton, the other two teams? Edmonton and others, Minnesota, playing well.
Absolutely. Minnesota has been the hottest team in the Western Conference over their last 10 games. They've got a nice mix of forwards there now. Gone are the days where they're dead last in shots on goal, where they're not generating any offense.
The trade for Setaguchi, I think, just kind of signals maybe a changing of the guard. Because if you remember, that the only coach they had ever had was Jacques Lemaire. And we know about the system they had there in New Jersey. So that was the kind of the thing where Minnesota was not necessarily the most exciting team to watch, but they were somewhat successful.
Right, and they absolutely capitalized. They had a situation with Brent Burns where they couldn't get an extension done. They traded him early. We see a lot of teams hang on to guys until the deadline, until their hands forced, or maybe even lose them for nothing. Here, they deal them a year early, and they really stock their forward core. They've had to piecemeal it a bit on defense, but they've been saved by hot goaltending. They've had Harding playing phenomenally. They've had Nick Backstrom turning in his usual level of excellence. And up front, now they've got Setaguchi. They've got Danny Heatley. They really got a whole bunch of guys over from San Jose, and Charlie Coyle, who's still in their pipeline. He's playing in the NCAA this year, but he's a very promising talent. So I think they've got some things going for them. I'm just a little concerned about their defensive depth as far as sustaining it. Edmonton, on the other hand, is a team that you really can't put a finger on their success. I mean,
Right.
look at the.
Well, they're young,
so
they're young, so they got a lot of energy. We know how kids are.
Right.
They're going to go out and run around out there. Maybe they're not in position sometimes, maybe they're not, but you come out a half a step slow against Edmonton, and hey, they've got the energy to outlast you. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, absolutely. They've got a lot of young legs in the lineup, namely Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's the #1 overall pick this season. A lot of people doubted if he could come straight into the NHL. I'd say that he's easily the Calder favorite to this point.
By the way, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was on the inaugural show of From the Arena. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was there, as was Ryan Smith. So we have both ends of the Ryan spectrum. But go ahead and continue on.
Well, at both ends of the age spectrum, too. Ryan Smith, a guy that they acquired for a 7th-round pick. A lot of people said he's got a high cap number. There was plenty of whining about the acquisition, but not in Edmonton, where he's still a huge fan favorite. And he's rewarded them this year by being a point-a-game player. I don't think a lot of people expected that he'd have 18 points in 18 games at this point, be their leading scorer, but he's done it. And we know from having him here in Los Angeles what kind of mentor he is to young players. Really one of the strongest work ethics and most cerebral players in the league. And then in net, you've got Hobby Bolin, 57 years young. He's posted some of the finest numbers in the entire National Hockey League this year.
He's got himself a ring, too.
He certainly does, and he was a huge part of it there with Tampa Bay. So he's having a huge comeback.
All right, speaking of Tampa Bay, let's go ahead and talk Eastern Conference here. We got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Yeah. So Eastern Conference, Tampa Bay. Now, one thing, we saw the little bit of, shall we say, controversy with Philadelphia kind of in protest, not moving the puck because San Jose is playing kind of a boring 1-3-1 system and not forechecking. So Tampa Bay, right. So what do you think about that team? They still got Le Cavalier. They've got San Luis. Teddy Purcell, who was out here in L.A., not doing much of anything and then became a star in the playoffs last year. Talk to me a little bit. Let's start with Tampa Bay.
Well, Tampa has not gotten really a lot of momentum off of their run to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals last year, but that division is wide open. We see Carolina is probably the coldest team at 2-8 in their last 10. They're still a short winning streak away from first place in that division.
Right.
Tampa's even ahead of them. I think the main thing that's changed for Tampa, a couple things. Steve Downey's really struggled. I'd say he's been one of the more disappointing players in the NHL this year, and they've also missed Matthias Ohlund, who's out with knee injuries indefinitely. He's had arthroscopic surgery, and we just have no idea when he's coming back. He was really one of the unsung players in last year's playoffs. He was the key to their 1-3-1, playing the back one there. He took all the tough matchups against the other team's top line and kind of played a quiet but very sound defensive game that I think they've missed very much this season.
All right, and we look at the other teams right now. Of course, we look at Philadelphia, we look at Buffalo, Pittsburgh, the Rangers. Toronto is in there. Florida is in the mix, but one team I want to talk about, though, is Washington, which for some reason, I do not buy into Washington, just to let you know. I haven't for many years. And there seems to be a group of reporters who get on the Washington bandwagon every year and think they're going to go to the Cup final. Last season, it was them shaving points, so many goals off of their goal differential. But when you look at it, I think they allowed 80 less goals, but to do that, they scored about 110 less. So really, to me, they just became a less interesting version of the same team they already were.
Right, and the results certainly weren't there. I mean, changing their identity didn't get them any further in the playoffs. And this season, they've kind of been a mixed bag. The main thing there, we see them in a little
mixed
bit of
bag
a
of what?
Well, maybe a mixed bag of underperforming Russian players, because you've got Alexander Semin struggling mightily in a contract year, no less. Ovechkin, while he's producing, he's not on top of his game, and he hasn't been since about midway through last season.
Right.
We haven't seen their best players be their best players, so they've developed a lot of depth. I think they had a very good offseason. George McPhee was very active, made a lot of shrewd moves, but we haven't seen it all come together yet, and I don't know that we will.
And you know what? That's interesting that horn goes, because we've reached the 30-minute mark just as the horn goes off on the rec league hockey game going on behind us here at Staples Center. So you know what? Hey, I didn't mean no disrespect to the Eastern Conference, but we got to cut this thing short. It's got to be 30 minutes so it'll fit on YouTube. It's just one of those things, y'all. Hey, you know what, Andrew? It's been a pleasure. Hope we can do this again. And you know what? This may be a little self-indulgent, but I'm going to go ahead and give us the champagne glasses for this past, just for this here and for this show. This has been, folks, From the Arena. And you can follow Inside Sports at The Inside Sports, or you can check the website, officialinsidesports.com, or if you want to see the latest writings of Mr. Andrew Knoll, you can go to
hockeysfuture.com, where we've got updates, organizational rankings, top 50 prospects, and plenty of other NHL and CHL news.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And for Andrew Knoll, I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. This has been an Inside Sports production.